Hello, and welcome back to Mild's Examinations. I'm your host, Michael Eldridge. I spent a lot of time on making an episode that probably won't be out until way later than this one, primarily because of copyright stuff. So here's something to fill the void in by talking about something probably said by other people. It's going to be a little bit more annoying than the other episodes to edit. You know this video. If you've seen any TED Talk, it's probably this one. The Mystery Box Talk by JJ Abrams. Yeah, I'm calling it wrong, because he keeps fucking up the dismount. What do I find wrong with his dismount? Rewarding his audience with any answers.
What the hell's that island? It's usually followed by, seriously, what the hell's that island? Why so many mysteries? What is it about mystery that I seem to be drawn to? And I was thinking about this, what to talk about at TED, when I talked to the kind rep from TED, and I said, listen, what should I talk about? He said, don't worry about it, just be profound. And I took enormous comfort in that, so thank you if you're here. I was trying to think, what do I talk about? It's a good question. Why do I do so much stuff that involves mystery? And I started trying to figure it out. And I started thinking about, well, why do I do any of what I do? And I started thinking about my grandfather.
In Cloverfield, one of the first movies he made, there's enough puzzle pieces to put it all together in most of the things. The satellite falls down, all that type of stuff. But in other films of his, except like Star Trek, he makes a bunch of mystery boxes that he doesn't even know the answer to himself, and just leaves it ambiguous. In The Force Awakens, the major questions were who are Rey's parents and who is Emperor Snoke. So the choice is to make a mystery. But you need to have the answer to those questions before you ask the audience itself, because the reveal is important. Abrams believes that the open-endedness of the possibilities is more important than the actual result.
We'd go to this magic store in New York City called Lou Tannen's Magic. It was this great magic store. It was a crappy little building in Midtown, but you'd be in the elevator would open, there'd be this little small magic store, you'd be in the magic store, and it was a magical place. So I got all these sort of magic tricks. Oh, here, I'll show you this kind of thing. So it'd be like, right? Which is good, but now I can't move. Now I have to do the rest of the thing. I'm like this. I'm like, oh, wow, look at my computer over there. Anyway. So one of the things that I bought at the magic store was this. Tannen's Mystery Magic Box. The premise behind the Mystery Magic Box was the following. $15 buys you $50 worth of magic. Which is a savings. Now, I bought this decades ago, and I'm not kidding. If you look at this, you'll see it's never been opened. But I've had this forever. Now, I was looking at this, it was in my office, and as it always is on the shelf, and I was thinking, why have I not opened this? And why have I kept it? Because I'm not a pack rat, I don't keep everything, but for some reason I haven't opened this box. And I felt like there was a key to this somehow, in talking about something at TED that I haven't discussed before and bored people elsewhere. So I thought, maybe there's something with this. I started thinking about it, and there was this giant question mark. I love the design, for what it's worth, of this thing. And I started thinking, why haven't I opened it? And I realized that I haven't opened it because it represents something important to me. It represents my grandfather. Am I allowed to cry at TED? Because no, I'm not going to cry. But the thing is that it represents infinite possibility. It represents hope. It represents potential. And what I love about this box, And what I realized I sort of do in whatever it is that I do is I find myself drawn to infinite possibility and that sense of potential. And I realize that mystery is the catalyst for imagination. Now, it's not the most groundbreaking idea, but when I started to think that maybe there are times when mystery is more important than knowledge, I started getting interested in this. And
basically, Mick Schrodinger's cat, a literal thing that's supposed to be talking about how absurd physics is, and the Mystery Box Family Guy joke.
Now, I know you've been here all day, so if you'll just sign this contract without reading it, I'll take your blank check, and you won't not be not loving your timeshare before you know it.
Well, look, Slick, we're not going to buy your lousy timeshare, all right? Now, where's my boat?
Hold on. You have a choice. You can have the boat or the mystery box.
What, are you crazy? We'll take the boat.
Oh, no, not so fast, Lois. A boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. You know how much we've wanted one of those.
Then let's just...
We'll take the box.
However, much like Peter Griffin, a lot of people agree, which, also like Peter, leads to them being fooled. I'm not saying I need to be told like a child how Lost worked or any of the questions it answered or asked. I'm asking you to know your own fucking game plan before you yell action. Hell, before the script is out the door to be sent to the cast.
Half weeks to write it, cast it, crew it, shoot it, cut it, post it, turn it in, 2-hour pilot. So it was not a lot of time. And that sense of possibility, what could this thing be? There was no time to develop it. I'm sure you're all familiar with those people who tell you what you can't do and what you should change. And there was no time for that, which is kind of amazing.
The Sixth Sense wouldn't work nearly as well if it didn't have the scenes where the main character does things where we can look back and go, ooh, I know what that means now. Sure, it's not the main mystery box, but it's one of them, and it's supposed to be a big reveal. JJ talks about the first Star Wars made and how it uses mystery box and clearly doesn't understand how the film answers questions. It seems to be as well that the definition of mystery box shifted from mystery to what happens next in the narrative, which isn't really a mystery, that's just progression of story.
We look at like Star Wars, you got the droids, they meet the mysterious woman. Who's that? We don't know. Mystery box, you know. Then you meet Luke Skywalker, he gets the droid, you see the holographic image, you learn, oh, it's a message, you know, she wants to, you know, find Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's her only hope. But who the hell's Obi-Wan Kenobi? Mystery box. So then you go and he meets Ben Kenobi's uncle is Obi-Wan Kenobi, holy shit, you know. So it keeps it... Have you guys not seen that? It's huge.
So let's bring up the space jockey from the end of Alien, since we're going to be on mystery boxes for a little bit. Near the end of the movie, there's this fucking giant bird-looking motherfucker seen in a giant chair. The viewer is in awe. What the fuck is that? What could it possibly be? That's a mystery box, but we didn't need to have it answered because it wasn't important to this story. You know, the xenomorph trying to survive it, that type of stuff. Cut to years later, Prometheus advertised that we would get an answer on what the space jockey was going to be, and it's a guy in a suit whose species makes the universe. Okay, some thoughts. Mainly, why did he think that's a good explanation of them? Make it the last of its kind, crash landing on the planet of the first movie. Hell, make it a movie about an entire group of space jockeys escaping their planet from the xenomorph thing, only to learn an egg has gotten on board and they're trying to deal with it. It hatches, it creates a space jockey xenomorph hybrid and stuff like that. Create a fucking language for them, for God's sake. Make it CG, I don't care, but put more effort in than albino giants that make the universe, which doesn't explain shit because they have the same DNA as us. What the fuck? Watch that more than fucking Prometheus. Alright, I got off topic, so let's get back on it. Going back a bit, he talks about how the tech of current times for filmmaking inspires him, such as special effects or just writing the story on his Apple product.
I love Apple computers, I'm obsessed. So the Apple computer, like the PowerBook, this computer, right, like it challenges me. It basically says, you know, what are you gonna write worthy of me. Like I feel this, I'm compelled. It's funny, I'm as I said, Apple fanatic, and one day about a year or so ago, I was signing on online in the morning to watch Steve Jobs' keynote, because I always do. And he came on, he was presenting the video iPod, and what was on the enormous iPod behind him? Lost. I had no idea. And I realized, holy shit, it come full circle. Like the inspiration that I get from the technology is now using the stuff that I do, inspired by it, to sell the technology. You know what I mean? It was nuts.
Taking the fact that Apple intentionally makes their products exclusive type products, where you can't really use the old chargers to charge the new ones or anything like that, allowing them to make inferior products than other types of computers or anything else in the same launch window, and that the mystery box he has on stage right there is just a bunch of useless tricks that was worth less than $50, which is what he was advertised as at the time, make cynical assholes like myself realize these fuckers fall for anything, and advertising gimmicks in general. The reason I brought back up the thing tech was because he did. He drones about how, but the innovation boom led to everyone being able to make films in their backyard, somehow misunderstanding how distribution works or publicity.
So I found I was going to show you a couple other things. I'm going to skip through. I just want to show you one other thing that has nothing to do with anything. This is something online. I don't know if you've seen 4 or 5, 6 years ago they did this. This is an online thing done by guys who had some visual effects experience, but the point was that they were doing things that were using these mystery boxes that they had, everyone has now. What I've realized is what my grandfather did for me when I was a kid, everyone has access to now. You don't need to have my grandfather, though you wish you had, but I have to tell you, this is a guy doing stuff on a Quadra 950 computer. The resolution is a little bit low, using Infinity software they stopped making 15 years ago. He's doing stuff that looks as amazing as stuff I've seen, released from Hollywood. The most incredible sort of mystery, I think, is now the question of what comes next, because it is now democratized. So now the creation of media it's everywhere. The stuff that I was lucky and begging for to get when I was a kid is now ubiquitous. And so there's an amazing sense of opportunity out there when I think of the filmmakers who exist out there now who would have been silenced, who have been silenced in the past.
The only instances of backyard films becoming popular when the film is really, really bad, like Neil Breen, people like that. The definition of mystery box shifts again to behind-the-scenes information, such as in Mission Impossible 3, where Tom Cruise has to shove something up his own nose using his hand, but it's like colored differently, so it looks like someone else's hand.
Okay, now, when we shot that scene, we were there doing it. The actor who had the gun, English actor, Eddie Marsan, sweetheart, great guy. He kept taking the gun and putting it into Tom's nose, and it was like it was hurting Tom's nose. And I learned this very early on in my career: don't hurt Tom's nose. There are 3 things you don't want to do. Number 2 is don't hurt Tom's nose. So Eddie has this gun, and he's the greatest guy, and he's like this really sweet English guy. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to hurt, I'm like, we have to make this look good. And I realized that we had to do something because it wasn't working just as it was. And I literally thought back to what I would have done using the Super 8 camera that my grandfather got me sitting in that room, and I realized that hand didn't have to be Eddie Marsan's. It could be Tom's. And Tom would know just how hard to push the gun. He wouldn't hurt himself. So
yeah, this video is somehow messier than mine. JJ thoughts are very loose and free flow and just go everywhere. With that, his definition of the mystery box shifts also. And it's this shifting of the goalposts and fan speculation being more important than the reveal that leads to the fucking films that he works on becoming major disappointments. For example, for the next 2 films in the Cloverfield series, JJ would take a film that was already being made or trying to be made and would just add scenes into it later to make it closer to relate to Cloverfield more, which did work for 10 Cloverfield Lane because it was at the time in production where it was able to be shoved in there. It actively hurt the Cloverfield paradox or the guard particle. Sure, the film wasn't going to be a masterpiece regardless, but it made it worse by pulling this shit down into Cloverfield, trying to make it relate. And it got worse the more times he tries this method to create more Cloverfield movies. And it is both a shame and a relief that this is going to keep happening, because eventually he will either improve his art or stop making films. Listen, I'm talking directly to you, JJ. I like your movies, but you really need to understand that reveal is important. You can't pull a what a twist if you're not willing to put the work in. It makes people feel like you haven't earned your awards or anything like that. It's hack writing. It's bad. If I write a twist into one of my episodes that I have a storyline for, it's not going to lead to something good. No, it's going to lead to something bad. It's going to lead to terrible stuff. So, for the love of God, JJ, keep making movies, but make sure that you put a twist that someone earns, because otherwise it leads to bad movies. Special thanks to Xavier Pulley. I will put his SoundCloud in the description. He provides the music for my intro, and go check him out. And again, thank you so much for watching.
Punch it!